The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. You're welcome to Leadership Podcast. It's another edition of The Big Issue. And of course, as usual, I'm your regular host. And with me here in the studio is a very vibrant economic analyst. And of course, an in-house analyst. Talking of no one other person but Mark Isibo.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Welcome to the Big Issue. And of course, without taking much of your time, because we're already behind schedule, the big issue of the day is the CBN's deadline for new Naira notes, the cashless policies, and the issues at stake. Well, the cashless policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria has kicked off. It started on the 9th of January. And of course, that entailed that there will be cash restriction. And at the same time, the December deadline for the new Naira notes to fully be in circulation and then send the old ones into extinction is fast approaching. January 31 is the date. But there have been so much controversy trailing the issue of the cashless policy, especially as it borders on the new Naira notes. And of course, that brings us to a situation where most Nigerians are afraid of the economy. They say the situation might cripple economic activities. But be that as it may, in the studio here, we will have to understand what this actually might lead us to. And of course, we know the issues out there, right from the National Assembly, where the lawmakers battle with the CBN over the cashless policy and the new Naira note and the withdrawal limit. Well, without wasting time, Mark, at least you are there. Let me not say you sure you are part of it. The redesigned Naira notes have been circulated by the CBN ahead of the January 31 deadline for the currency, for the old currencies to cease to exist.
Well, thank you very much. The new Naira notes have been designed, actually in circulation. But if you ask me how circulated, I will say the notes are not well circulated yet, based on feelers from the financial market, from the system, from the banking system, and from even the general public. Because you hear that customers are complaining that they are stranded, they don't see the currencies. And I can tell you that a whole lot of people have not actually had the privilege, let me call it privilege now, of even transacting with the new currencies. So if we talk about circulation, I think it's still at a very, very elementary angle. It has not gotten to even the middle line. So it is still poorly circulated, if you ask me.
Well, why I'm asking you this question is because there has been much controversy over the availability of the Naira note. People are saying that they don't have access to this new Naira note. And CBN said it has directed banks to load the new note in the ATM. If you go to the ATMs dispense old Naira note. Is it that CBN didn't print the note enough? What is actually happening? Because some people are saying that it is deliberate attempt by the federal government to stifle cash flow in the system, perhaps for the purpose of this forthcoming general election, and maybe after the election, things might return back to normal. But can this just be tied to the elections? No.
Well, it is. I think it is possible. It's possible because what I know is that whatever is possible to be done to ensure that there will be no too much of cash in circulation, especially during the election period, I'm sure that the authorities will do that to discourage vote buying and the benefits to politicians. But if you talk about the availability of the Naira, you know, the CBN has also said that it is introducing this measure first to discourage hoarding of the Naira notes. Secondly, to curb inflation, because too much of it in circulation will eventually cause inflation. I know the Nigerian inflation over 21% already, 21.8% or so already as we speak. So maybe, and the third one could be because of the politics as you rightly identified or mentioned. Another thing is, will you ask if the CBN maybe they did not print enough or whatever has been the case? The issue is that, well, it is difficult for anybody here to say, to sit down anywhere and say the CBN has not printed currency, it has printed. It is left for the CBN to come and say. But for me, I think it is either the CBN or it's the Nigerian printing press, the Nigerian printing administrating company is still in the process, or the CBN has not printed, or the CBN is deliberately holding back the Naira notes, maybe to watch and release them in bits. But I don't know. But what I know that the CBN has a lot of approaches it uses to drive down its cashless policy, its target of ensuring that there is not too much money in circulation, especially with regards to inflation and monetary policies formulation and implementation. So the formulation, the implementation of these policies, these money control policies or tools taking the CBN different approaches. And like we said, it could be that they don't have enough cash of the enough cash of the new notes with them. That is why we do not have it much in circulation. But the CBN is saying that it has printed that they have enough money, but we are not seeing the money. So, like you ask, where is the money? How come we cannot see the new notes? Because Nigerians are anxious. Since you have said you are going to change the money, change it and let us see it. But how come we are not seeing it? So it's an issue. It's an ongoing issue, and we know that, and we believe that the CBN should be taking some critical measures to ensure that at least in the minimum part of it, these currencies are available, even though they have said that henceforth the higher denominations that are now reprinted, are now redesigned, will not be much in circulation as it used to be.
But the smaller denomination too.
Yes.
You know, even before the redesigning of the Naira note, you are aware that even the smaller denomination, 20 Naira, 10 Naira, 15 Naira, had, before this cashless policy came, the thing had been fizzling out, gradually.
You know that is
because is it because of the value or
yes? See, let me tell
or
you,
the CBN is actually had been printing these the lower denominations in smaller quantities.
No, you know the issue is that is where you know that the Nigerian economy is actually suffering, it's ailing. When you see an economy where you don't see the lower denomination of the national currencies, you know that is where you actually see the real value or the life I don't know, let me just say the value of the economy. Because while you see these new lower denominations seem to be fizzling out or going into a station, it's because you don't. What can you buy with 5 Naira note today? 10 Naira note, 20 Naira. 20. I was just discussing with my friend the other day, about 3 days ago. I said, "Oh, 20 Naira. This is 20 Naira."
That is the price.
Yes. So 20 Naira note,
one pure water.
Yes. So I said, this 20. I said, it's not that I've seen 20 Naira. So you can imagine, even as much as I'm not rich, I don't struggle. So if at my level I cannot easily access 20 Naira, it tells you how down, how poor the Nigerian economy is at the moment. So that alone is a definition or is an explanation of the fact that the Nigerian economy needs to be immediately revived.
Thank you very much. We'll be taking a short break. About to do so, we're hoping that by the time we come, our viewers would have started contributing constructively to the conversation on the big issue. Don't go offline. We'll be back in a moment.
sponsorship, and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Well, welcome back. We're still on the big issue in Leadership Podcast. And of course, the big issue of the day is the controversy surrounding the CBN deadline for the new Naira notes to come fully into circulation and for the old ones to finally fizzle out. And at the same time, the cashless policy. This cashless policy, of course, when you talk of cash restriction, I don't know, is Nigeria ripe for cashless economy? Because in developed countries, if we talk of cashless economy, there are other ways you utilize technology to actually do transactions. I don't think Nigeria has. When did ATM come to Nigeria? When did we start some of this, like internet banking? Just now, and the population in Nigeria that uses the ATM, the internet banking, and the rest is microscopic compared to the majority of Nigerians in rural areas. So, was Nigeria actually right for this cashless economy, the cashless policy that CBN just introduced?
Well, as they say, Rome was not built in a day, and they also say that a journey of how many miles begin with a step. The issue is that if you ask me, Nigeria is actually right for it, because it's a matter of systemic development. Because if we don't do it, we'll end up behaving like people in the dark age, carrying cash, torn currencies, old notes, spending much money on printing of currencies, monies that could be spent for developmental purposes and the rest of them. So Nigeria is actually right for it. What we need to is to now look at the issues that have emanated from the implementation of the cashless policies of the central bank. Issues like internet.
Thank you.
For people in the rural areas, most especially to
access
banking. So there's need for broadband penetration, massive broadband penetration. So if you look at the figures today, broadband penetration in Nigeria is still below 70%. Then, if you look at the issues again of cashless policy, the issue of cashless policy, the benefits are so enormous, both for the economy, for the design and implementation of monetary policies, and even for the entire population. Because it helps you to deal with the issue of, for instance, somebody will tell you, there was fire in the house, and the whole monies that were stored in the house, as if they were goods, were burnt. So the cashless policy is another way of even advancing financial inclusion, bringing everybody on board the banking sector, letting them, and that is in a way advances education. Because don't be surprised that you would think that these people are not vast or are not knowledgeable in the use of the USSD codes, short codes, and the rest of them, and even financial banking, internet banking, using of online apps and the rest of them, and even using of ATM cards. You may think that, but with time, they get to use. When the mobile phone started, many people never knew how to use it. But today, almost everybody, including the young and so we should know it's something that we should encourage. You understand now? Because it will help us in the long run to have a system that is trackable, a system that can go far.
Well, Mark, why I ask was, Nigeria is a country where the institutions don't work, they don't act. Let me explain what I say too. Now, you brought about these, you spoke about the broadband, the penetration. Of course, you and I know very well that in most communities in the rural areas, there are no banks. And in some local government, sometimes you see only one bank. And without that broadband penetration, coupled with what is even happening in the rural areas, you know, because of this cashless policy and some of this withdrawal limit, now ATM, POS, they have increased the fee for the ATM POS transaction. At the end of the day, that now goes to affect the common man, yeah. Because the POS now will not cash in on that and begin to extort from Nigeria in the name of exorbitant fees. Just within Monday to now, if you see, most of the PS spots have started increasing the fees. And at the end of the day, in developed countries, what the government would do is to send security agencies, send some task force to monitor things like this, to comb this POS, most of these POS operators, bring them to big, and then ensure that there's a level of fee. They peg it out. You go to somewhere and say you are withdrawing 20,000 naira. Somebody is telling you it's 400. Whereas somewhere you go, they say it's 200. In another place, somebody might even tell you 500. And when they talk, you say you don't know that this that the CBN should have factored in. Bring the security agencies, the task force, factor them in. Just like in elections now, you know that there is always the security unit to actually implement certain decisions, and that is what CBN should have. But this, I'm not sure CBN was ready. Most Nigerians feel that it is coming. What the CBN did was to put the cart before the horse. Introduce a policy before you think of creating sensitization.
Well, that may be true in a sense, but if you ask me, I view it as I view it from a different perspective. I look at it from the perspective of the fact that there are so many government agencies who are supposed to be collaborating to get a government policy or program through down the line. If the CBN has come up with this, and we all of us know the benefits, then what is the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy doing? Then you talk about the enforcement. The CBN does not enforce a law. The CBN is not a law enforcement agency like the police or whatever you call them. You understand? So how do they take it off from there? But I take you to that aside. I take you to a personal experience I had today. I was at a program that was also organized by the CBN, and one man asked the question: if I have the old notes, the old bank notes, and I don't have a bank account, how can I change them to the new ones? Because you know, the process is that you bring the old notes to the banks or to any of the agent banking and the POS and the rest of them. You bring the old ones through them and you get the new ones. Whether directly or indirectly, you can then go, like as at now, the only place you can access them is through the ATM machines. So that man asked the question. And also it was interesting and somehow very funny to me, the way the CBN official, one manager at the CBN answered. And she told the person, the only way is for you to go and open an account. Do you understand?
Okay, man, sorry, not as if I cut you short. That man might be educated, even not, at least he must have that layman's education to enough to go and open an account. Let's look at the woman, the old grandma in the village, whose son or grandson came for Christmas. And then as he goes, he leaves behind with her very big bunch of Naira notes to help the old woman survive.
Yes.
And you know, these old women, they don't do, most people in the rural areas don't have bank accounts.
No.
They don't do banking.
Yes.
What the old woman does is to package that money, put it in what is this thing they used to call the tie here?
Yeah.
I keep it there with her for years. Yeah. What will happen with such a woman? At the end of the day, no bank account to come change that money. And at the end of the day, the deadline kicks off, the money becomes useless in her hand. I mean,
yes, and I support your view on that with the fact that even in my own local government, ESACO is local government of Edo State. I think that I don't think there's any bank there, or there is just one bank that is there. I think I don't want to mention the name of the bank. So it's a whole lot of problem. But the issue is that, like the CBN official said, the best way is to open an account. So if you talk about the old woman in the village or those who cannot have access a bank
open a bank
within their
even if they
vicinity,
have access to bank, they are not even educated. They don't. Okay, how
don't
can
know
they
how to
even open an account?
Well, the only way and the only way, so the only surviving way for them is to go and open an account, or they give their cash to their children or anybody around them, lodge in their account, and maybe maybe when the new cash are out, the person can now go and withdraw the new
And
one.
don't
And
forget,
since they like holding cash,
and don't forget, this is where the issue of trust comes in. You
Yes.
know, some of these children
yes,
are mischievous.
yes,
And some of them might not decide to cash in on that.
yes. So the person can go and open an account for the grandmother.
To start shortchanging the
Yeah,
grandmother.
it's the you go and open an account for the grandmother whenever she wants to do
A situation where somebody will now say, come, like God catch this old woman. This woman when they hide this money, they hide that very stingy. So,
Yes.
yes. So now you want to bring that money.
That's the cost.
And at the end of the day, sometimes the woman now discovers that what she gave the grandson to go, it was not exactly what you said. You know.
Well, that's the cost, but the system must be
then.
built. The system must be built. So, like I said, if the grandmother can open an account, she can trust one of the children or grandchildren or anybody around her. Maybe to lodge it in their account. Then if the person can access a new one, because I am sure that they will not be able to get as much as usual currency.
But that was in a lighter mode. But the main worry is that there is no way economic activities can thrive in Nigeria without some level of quantity of cash in the system. You know, without cash, SMEs and other smaller businesses will suffer. And of course, some kind of transactions, including some of this intervention program the CBN is actually carrying out as part of how do they call it?
It's a development finance mandate.
They made development finance mandate.
Yeah.
They will also suffer.
Yeah, you are right. You are right. Just as you have noted, that is why the CBN has to ensure that these new redesigned notes are available for Nigerians to use. Because if it is not immediately available and a gap is created, the same economic activities that the CBN wants to promote will end up being endangered or not being achieved. So by that, a gap will be created. And once that gap is created in economies, it becomes a problem. So the CBN, that's why the CBN has to make it, no matter how much is the quantity or how little is the quantity, let it be available to Nigerians to use. It should not be that what we are hearing now, the money is not there, the money is there, we're looking for the money. Government has said that the CBN has said I've put the money there, the bank has said that we don't have the money, and the customers have said we are stranded, we are confused, there's the money. No, the CBN has to ensure that the process is transparent and is conducive for all the stakeholders to assess, and with the aim of creating economic and promoting economic activities, with the total objective of ensuring that the financial system, the banking sector, and the general economy does not suffer.
Yes, thank you. And of course, you see, it is things like this we are saying that at the end of the day has put a CBN in a tight corner. I think CBN is now at the receiving end, because things like this have even raised suspicion on the part. Politicians are even suspicious. Politicians, the impression they have is that CBN is deliberately doing this to frustrate some of them, because at the end of the day, when CBN announced this recently, most people, even analysts, started saying that it is even a way of checking against money back politics. But at the end of the day, you can even imagine that it is even the reason why the embattled CBN governor now is on edge, and people are saying that the best thing he should do is to resign, because what have we not heard? They have accused him of sponsoring terrorism, and one will now ask CBN.
Well, those are
CBN is the apex bank and the major agency. CBN is part of the federal government. It's as the same thing as saying that the federal government is sponsoring terrorism, and of course, you could imagine that things like this will go a long way to raise suspect. What is all about this thing about the CBN government sponsoring terrorism, doing things for political reasons? He shot himself in the foot by even attempting to contest for the presidency. All this.
Well, those are issues. Those are, if you ask me, they are just mere allegations. I will say the authorities, the SSS, and all those concerned should follow through with whatever claim they have. They have evidence. That is why they are raising allegations. So let them go through the process. Follow what the law has laid down. follow the process and exhaust it and make sure that you get the right result. Nigeria, it will be interesting to see that the SSS is able to prove that the CBN governor was sponsoring terrorism. It will be very interesting, not just to us Nigerians, but to everyone out there. You understand? And so, for whatever allegations around the CBN governor, around the CBN, those are secondary. What is primary now, what Nigerians are talking about, is making these new Naira notes available for economic activities to take place without hindrances, without restrictions.
Well, we are rounding up. But first, let me ask, is he back from the country? Is he back in the country because there are rumors that he's traveling abroad? It's like he has actually embarked on his self-exile.
I hear
from there he will resign.
I hear he's back. As at last night, I heard he's back, but I don't really know how true is that because I've not seen him myself. So it will be very fine if the man is back, but the man needs to come home. There are too many issues he needs to talk to Nigerians about. Let him come and engage Nigerians. I tell Nigerians his own part of the issue. So it will be unheard of if a city CBN governor is missing in action. He's missing when there are heavy allegations around him at his office. So we expect him to come back and talk to Nigerians.
Well, that is the much we can take for the big issue of the day. The cashless policy, the deadline for the new Naira notes is January 31. And the cashless economy and all that started on the 9th of January, precisely last Monday. Well, it has many benefits, but the CBN and the financial institution should do it right in order for it not to have a negative impact on the country's economy and then affect Nigerians who are the ones who will be at the receiving end. Thank you for keeping tab with us. And of course, I thank our in-house analyst, Mark, for addressing the big issue the way it should be addressed.
Thank you very much.
Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of the big issue. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.